name is Sandra Mbanefo Obiago. I'm a documentary filmmaker. I'm very passionate about art, and I spend quite a bit of time organizing artistic events, from art exhibitions to all sorts of artistic, visual, performing arts that strengthen our appreciation of the creative industries. I'm based in Nigeria, and I have a global focus. What's my story? Well, I started off by going to school. I studied education, languages, English and German, and then I did a master's in telecommunications. And then for the first couple of years I worked in television as an online director, which was switching when you were having live broadcasts. I then went into the newsroom and worked as a reporter and a producer. And then I spent about 8 years doing photojournalism in sub-Saharan Africa. So I toured the width and breadth of Africa, spent about 6 months of the year traveling, covering stories that dealt with development issues, that dealt with environmental issues and how they relate to our human development. And that kind of led me on to then starting an NGO which was called Communicating for Change. And the focus of that organization was how to deal with development issues, but from an entertainment point of view, sort of edutainment. How do you use radio, TV, print to pass messages to young people, especially in Africa, that dealt with issues like health, education, electoral issues, democracy and good governance, women's development, and so on. So I spent quite a few years doing that, really just organizing both advocacy events, working with the television stations in Nigeria as a content producer, so producing films and content for Nigerian broadcasters, and also producing content for 41 stations around the world. Recently, I've sort of done a lot of solo work, kind of put down the strong corporate strictures, and I'm now working more as an independent consultant, again in the areas of film and art. Well, there's a saying that goes something like this: it is easier to begin than to end. Finishing is better than starting. And I think that is a challenge for every creative spirit. You're so wrapped up, you have so many inspirations, you have so many ideas, but really, taking it to fruition, I think that is the biggest challenge for creative people. Having the discipline to be able to plan through a creative process and take it to fruition. Mistakes are the most important milestones on your journey. At least for myself, I can say you'll learn a lot more from your mistakes than you do from your successes. And I think basically to accept that a lot of what comes your way is by the grace of God. To work hard, to keep working hard, and not to let disappointments with people keep you from your goal. So I can say that my mistakes and the disappointments that I've had along the way have made me stronger, made me more resolute to continue, and also makes you more humble, because you realize that you need others. You're not an island, especially in the creative process. I mean, even film, by the time you have your whole crew together, if the sound man isn't doing what he's supposed to do, doesn't matter how good the cameraman is, but you're not going to have a great product. So also learning the humility to work with others and not to think that it's all up to you, numero uno. Well, I think Half of a Yellow Sun, the adaptation of Chimamanda's book, is a wonderful story. It's a love story about two sisters and their lives that is being played out before, during, and after the Nigerian Civil War. It's a very important story historically. I think as Nigerians we've not really come to terms with that story. And even though the film is not a political film, but it does touch on a lot of the deep-seated issues surrounding the Biafran War and what happened and how it affected people's lives. So I think it's an important film that especially the youth can see and appreciate. In terms of the production, it was obviously a co-production between the UK and Nigeria, although I have to proudly say that 70% of the funding came from Nigeria. So it is our own production. Funding came from Bank of Industry and a lot of individuals who supported the project and what it stood for. I believe that the future of Nigeria is in harnessing our creativity and making it count, both in terms of celebrating our identity and who we are and why we're unique in the global space, as well as supporting the youth to tap into our creativity, complement that with knowledge and discipline and learning and schooling, and then seeing how that can create wealth. So actually moving Nigeria from an extractive economy, oil and gas, to a knowledge-based economy. And I think that's where our future is. So when you look at fashion, when you look at music, drama, entertainment, art, I mean, we are so dynamic. You know, when people see what we produce here, they're always amazed, because the story that gets out into the international space is usually negative about Nigeria, and yet we have so much positive to celebrate and to share with the world. So I think that is our future, and that is what I'm very, very passionate about sharing, about showcasing, about presenting. My husband and I also collect art, and so I'm very interested to see how art and art appreciation can grow in Nigeria, and how we can share our artistry, showcase it internationally, and also bring people here to Nigeria to enjoy the scene.